Welcome back, crafty friends. It's Alicia of the Call Me Crafty Owl YouTube channel. Today I have a video to share with you. It's a process video, and this is the pocket letter that I created to help Sarah Roberson celebrate her 300th subscriber. Before I got started, I just got out some supplies I thought I might use for her pocket letter. The paper is from the Sunny Dream stack, which was a hot buy at Michael's. Before I started on this pocket letter, I kind of sketched out an idea of what I might want the pocket letter to turn out like, and I'm just giving you a peek at that here. Like always, I start out by cutting out my paper for the pockets. This top one is going to go across 3 pockets, so I actually cut it to 7.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. The rest of the papers I just cut down into 2 or 3 of the regular size 2.5 by 3.5 inch papers, and I kind of skip past all of that here in a second. Just starting to get an idea of where I might want the pattern papers to go in my pockets, but like always, I think that I also switch some of these around eventually. Here I am getting ready to start the top portion of my pocket letter. I'm just picking out some cardstocks that I think go well with the pattern paper. This top section will be kind of my sentiment or my hello, my intro for Sarah when she pulls it out of the envelope. Since Sarah is such a huge fan of owls, and this is for a celebration, I did a little play on hip hip hooray. But instead of saying hip hip hooray, I decided to go with hoot hoot hooray, since I was, you'll see later, I'm going to be putting some owls onto it. Here I am just working on cutting out all of my die cuts that I'll need for the banner and the sentiment. I wanted to get an idea of how large the banner would be, so I just started punching out all my letters here and laying out each of the banner flags for that sentiment at the top. Here in a second, I'm going to run all those letters through my mini Xyron and get it ready to adhere to the pocket letter. I'm going to be using some pink twine to thread each of my little banner flags onto. So here you can see me poking holes in the top 2 corners of each little piece. First I did that first H and then used that as a template for the rest of the paper piercing. As my little note says here, it took me longer than expected to get that needle threaded. I started off by tying a knot in the left side of my twine there, and this was just so when I pulled my needle through that first piece that I had a stopping guide for the banner, just so it wouldn't keep moving around. Once I got that done, I just started threading all of my little flags onto there, and then I believe before I did the second hoot I put another knot in my thread. little fun fact about me and the word hoot. One of my older brothers actually nicknamed me Hoot, and I've had that nickname for years. He said the reason that he did it was I always wore glasses, and at one point I kind of had some of those Sally Jesse Raphael looking glasses, really big, and he thought I looked like an owl. I started to lay out my sentiment banner over the pocket letter, and I decided that the yellow Hooray didn't stick out quite enough, so I decided I was going to cut a new Hooray in some blue cardstock instead. It took me a little bit to figure out how I was going to attach that banner to the front of the pocket letter. I didn't know if I would have to punch holes in my sheet protector, but then I remembered my Tim Holtz tiny attacher. That worked perfectly. I just put a little staple on the left and right, and then one in the center to hold the banner on. I decided to use some pop dots on each of the little flags. I could have just left the banner hanging there, but I was afraid the letters would flip around. So I started by putting a pop dot on the back of the H and the T. I got those adhered first and arranged correctly, and then did the middle two letters. I just did that to both sides here. I used the same pop dots to adhere the Hooray to the outside of the pocket letter. Some of them I had to cut in half so they would fit behind the thin font. So this took a little bit, but I think it was worth it in the end. I felt like the Hooray would be secure, and I loved the dimension that they gave it. I thought the top three pockets needed just a little something more, so I got out some pink gems and adhered 3 in a vertical column right next to the H in Hooray. And that, friends, finishes up those top 3 pockets. For the left pocket on the second row, I'm going to be cutting an owl out of some patterned paper. This is an old Quick Cuts die that I've had for a while. I'm glad I got to put it to use. I originally cut out that blue pattern paper for the belly of the owl, but really didn't like it up against the yellow, so you'll see me here re-die cut just using some white cardstock. again, to add some dimensions, I'm going to be pulling out my pop dots here shortly, and I adhered the head of the owl onto the body with some of those just so it would pop off the page just a little bit more. I had to take a little break here to Google images of this owl so I knew exactly how and where to place his feet. Thank goodness for the internet. Instead of trying to cut the pupils out of black cardstock, I just colored in the eyeballs with a pencil there. I'm pulling out my sequins, so you know it must be time for another shaker pocket, one of my favorite things to do now that I have my fuse tool. When creating my sequin mix, I tried to just look at the main pattern paper, the one there at the top 3 pockets, and just pull some colors from there. So I went with a couple yellows, a blue, a pink, threw in a few mini black sequins and some clear beads. Here I am sealing up the sides of that center pocket. Because I have those micro beads in this sequin mix, I did also seal the very bottom little bit of the pocket because sometimes the little beads like to sneak out. Oops, I forgot my glass mat on those first few runs of my fuse. I have found out that it does work a lot better on a glass mat, and I didn't want to ruin my new background, so I did grab that once I realized. I am making a couple diagonal lines with my fuse tool. I like to do something in the center of that pocket just so all my sequins don't drop right to the bottom. Here in another minute or so you'll see what I end up covering that center kind of blank spot with. Since Sarah is celebrating 300 subscribers on her YouTube channel, I die cut the number 300 from this pink cardstock. Before I adhered the numbers down, I was trying to get an idea of how they would fit well on that center pocket. Once I found a good placement for them, I went ahead and used my ATG to put a little adhesive on the back and adhere them to the front of the pocket. Here I am selecting one of my Project Real Life printed cards from Becky Higgins to put as my random facts card in one of the pockets. For today's pocket letter, I chose 8 luxuries I couldn't live without. I usually try to match the color of the real life card to stuff in my pocket letter, so today's card has a pink border around it. While I had the paper out for that first pocket, I decided to go ahead and cut 2 pieces, just so that I would be ready for the pocket that my letter went in later. At one point during this process, I realized that my video camera had shut off and that I did not record myself finishing the pockets for my letter and my random facts card, or the embellished owl paper clip that I had created. So I'm kind of showing you here the supplies I used to do each of those. Sarah loves owls and she loves embellished paper clips. I believe she does like the daily planning and stuff and uses them in there. So since she liked both of those, I had created that little owl paper clip, altered paper clip, and right now I'm trying to create a card to go in one of the center pockets that will hold that paper clip, and then once she gets the pocket letter, she can just pull that off there. I realized as I was trying to put the owl onto that little piece of paper that it wasn't quite dry enough yet, so I just sat that to the side to dry. Next up is my designed by pocket letter piece. I'm just going to stamp that designed by sentiment in some blue ink onto a white Martha Stewart doily. I was just playing with how I wanted to arrange it on the card. I decided to put it in the center, but before I did that, I adhered that strip of blue pattern paper to the background. Once I had all of that adhered down, I used a blue marker to go in and write my name and the name of my YouTube channel, which is Call Me Crafty Owl. And that concludes today's process video. I had tons of fun creating this pocket letter for Sarah. I liked that I know what some of her favorites are, like owls and altered paper clips, so I could personalize it for her. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up below, and I always love to have new subscribers. I hope you're all having a great day and will come back soon. Thanks, bye-bye.